Thank you, Ed. And thank you all for coming. It's a busy time of year for all of us, and today dedicate a night of Limud Torah in memory L'Ilui Nishmat Menchel, I think is very fitting. You know, the Gemara tells us, Hamlamed et ben benot Torah ki'ilu yilado. If an individual teaches Torah to someone else's child, the individual has the zchut, has the merit, as if it is their own child. What we see from this Gemara is that the bond that is forged between an educator, between a mechanech and a child and a student, is through the study of Torah. And certainly, such a precious and special and unique individual such as Menchel was a person that touched all of us at Yeshiva HaTorah, touched all of her friends, touched all of her teachers, and we all feel the loss. But through Torah, through the study of Torah, we can elevate that relationship and perpetuate that relationship. Our students are learning about the mitzvah of Ktivat Sefer Torah, the writing of a Sefer Torah. By the way, if there's anything I say that's not clear, if I use terminology, I'll try not to use terminology that I don't explain. Please just raise your finger, just give me an indication. I'm not looking for this not to be understood. I hope it will be. Our students are learning about the mitzvah of Ktivat Sefer Torah, which, as you all know, is the final, the last of the Taryag mitzvot, the last of the 613 mitzvot, and it is found in Parshat Vayelech. The interesting thing is, if you look, and I hope everyone has a source book in front of them, and if you don't, we have copies. If you open up to the front page, the first page, the second page actually in the book, the section in Parshat Vayelech, Perek Lamed Aleph, Psukim Yutet until Lamed, verses 19 through 30, introduces the concept of V'ata kitvu lachem et hashira hazot v'lamdat b'nei Yisrael sima b'fihem l'man tiyeh li hashira hazot le'ed b'vnei Yisrael. And now, write for yourselves this song and teach it to the Jewish people. Place it in their mouths in order so that this song will be for me a witness for the Jewish people. It's a complicated verse. It requires analysis and understanding. And of course, all of the Mefarshim, all of the commentaries, try to analyze different aspects, different elements of this pasuk. For example, very basically, what is this shira? What is this song? Rashi, number 2, and I told you who each of the Mefarshim that I'm going to quote and when they lived to give you a context. Rashi says, Et hashira hazot ha'azinu hashamayim ad v'chiper ad mato amo. This song that is referenced here in this pasuk is a reference to the Shira of Ha'azinu. And you're all familiar that Ha'azinu, just like it is reprinted here in the Chumash in a different form, similarly in the Torah itself, Ha'azinu appears in a different format than the rest of the Torah. And we call that a Shira. We call that a song. The Ramban similarly. V'tam hashira hazot, hashira asher ani agid lecha ata. The song that I am about to tell you, Vayelech, comes right before Ha'azinu. God is telling Moshe, the song that I am about to tell you, V'hi Ha'azinu, V'yikra'ah shira. It is referred to as a song, Ki Yisrael Yamruha Tamid Bishir Uvizimra. Why is it called a song? Because the Jewish people will always engage in singing it. V'chein nichteva kishira. It is written in a format of a song. Ki hashirim yichtavu vahem hefsek bimkomot haneima. If you'll notice that at the end of the verse, in the middle of each verse, that's where the line ends, and it goes to the next line, as opposed to in the normal prose of the Chumash, which just continues. Each verse continues, one runs into the next. The Shirah has a very particular structure and format. So immediately, although we know that this pasuk is used as the basis for the mitzvah for writing the Torah, we see immediately that the Mefarshim, our classical commentaries, the primary commentaries, if you will, seem to say that this Shirah is not a reference to the writing of the Torah, but it's a reference where Moshe is being told to write this particular song, this song Ha'azinu. What is the significance of this song? We're going to talk about that. What is this mitzvah? How does one fulfill? How does Moshe fulfill the mitzvah? Says the Orach Chaim HaKadosh in number 4. Shalosh mitzvot tzivah Hashem. God is commanding 3 mitzvot here. Achat, lichtov. Shenit, lilamda et bnei Yisrael. The first mitzvah is to write it. The second mitzvah is to teach it to the Jewish people, sheyed'u kavanat divrei hashirah, that they will understand the intention of this song. And shlishit, the third of the mitzvot, l'sima bifihem leida kriyata, to place it in their mouths so that they know precisely how to read it. The Torah, we know, doesn't have vowels. Unless you teach it in the particular way that it's supposed to be read, one could misread it. And if you look up now back to number 1, the verses that I quoted, in Pasuk Chaf Bet, you have the first mitzvah, Vayichtov Moshe et Hashirah. In other words, first there's a commandment in Pasuk Yutet to do the writing and the teaching and placing it in the Jewish people's mouths. And then in Pasuk Chaf Bet, in fact, Moshe carried out this mitzvah, Vayichtov Moshe et Hashirah zot bayom hahu, 2, Vayilamdat b'nei Yisrael, and then skip down to Pasuk Lamed, Vayidaber Moshe be'oznei kol kahal Yisrael et divrei hashirah hazot ad tumam. Moshe placed in the ears of the Jewish people these words, the words of this song, until their conclusion. So we see that Moshe fulfilled the mitzvah, but the mitzvah was, once again, teaching, writing, teaching, and placing the proper reading of the Shirah of Ha'azinu. What is the purpose of this Shirah? Says Rashi, number 5. Number 5 is relating to Pasuk Chaf Aleph, the third Pasuk, the third line on top, that when difficulties befall the Jewish people, Ve'anta hashirah hazot lefanav le'ed, this song will respond and be a witness. Ki lo tishakach mipi zar'o, it will never be forgotten from the descendants of Moshe. Ki adati et yitzro asher hu oseh hayom b'terem aviyenu la'aretz asher nishbati. I'm expecting the Jewish people to have their flaws. I'm expecting them to have their ups and downs in their religious observance and commitment. However, this Shirah will be an aid which will never be forgotten. Says Rashi, the purpose of this Shirah, V'yanta Shirah hahu lefanav le'ed, shehitreti bo b'tocha al kol hamotzaot oto. I used this Shira, I used this Parsha of Ha'azinu to warn the Jewish people of what will befall them if they leave the fold, if they leave their commitment and their observance. However, the Aznayim LaTorah, Harav Baruch Sorotzkin, a relatively contemporary Perush, who died just in the last 50 years, 60 years. Rav Zalman Sorotzkin says the following. V'ata kitvu lachem, number 6, et hashira azot la'ed b'vnei Yisrael. And he quotes the whole pasuk, Ki avienu al ha'adama, when I bring the Jewish people to the land, a land of zavat chalav udvash, ufana el Elohim acherim, veheferet briti. When they reject my covenant and they follow other gods, v'yit'u lomar, they will make the mistake and say, Ki gam ani hefarti et briti imam. They will try to say that when the difficulties and the consequences of their behavior come to them, that it must be that God has forsaken them as well. They will try to say that. However, v'yit'u lomar, that is a mistake. Ve'anta shira hazot lefanav le'ed ki lo tishakach mipi zaro. This shira, this ha'azinu, will serve as a witness forever that my covenant with the Jewish people will never be forgotten. Ve'habrit halo nichreta al haTorah. What is the covenant? The covenant is to keep the Torah. In other words, this shira will serve as a witness to the covenant that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that God made with the entire Jewish people. And how was that covenant made? It was made through the acceptance of the Torah. Because man shehi lo tishakach mipi zaro. As long as it is not forgotten, as long as the Torah is not forgotten, parenthesis, very important parenthesis, Va'ani mavtiach shelo tishakach, says the Aznayim LaTorah. And I am promising you, says God, that it will never be totally forgotten. There will always be remnants within the Jewish people who know Torah and study Torah. Regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the persecution, regardless of what we know has happened to our people in Jewish history, we are able to tell the story today in a yeshiva which continues to teach Torah, and we are not the only ones. Because this shira, this Parshat Ha'azinu, this song, will be an eternal testimony to God's covenant. As long as lo tishakach mipi zaro, legamri harei habrit imahem kayemet mitzidi. God is saying, I will make sure to keep my end of the bargain as long as there is still some remnant of Torah being studied. From the Aznayim LaTorah, we start to see that there is a connection, sort of a transfer from the pure understanding of Ha'azinu to represent only this song, but that the song represents a greater goal, the greater goal of ensuring that the Torah will never be forsaken, that the Torah will never be forgotten. Who was commanded to do this mitzvah? Again, we're staying with the pshat of the psukim, V'ata kitvu lachem et hashira hazot. Says the Ibn Ezra, number 6, it should be number 7, I obviously mixed up the numbers. It says number 6, it's on top second column. Everyone is bothered by the plural word kitvu. It should say, Ve'ata, and now, Ktov et hashira hazot, Ve'lamda et bnei Yisrael sima b'fiyem. V'lamda